Hi, welcome to the 17th video in the series. That's an awful lot, 17. Showing how I set up Microsoft Flight Simulator using X's and O's and Stream Deck. And this time we're going to look at how we control some of the cabin lights using scripts and looking at how potentiometers work. So quite a lot to get through, particularly as I'm going to spend a fair bit of time explaining the structure of the scripts and the RPN, the reverse Polish notation language it uses. So we'll probably only deal with one of the lights today in this video, and we'll deal with the others in another video. We'll break it up a little bit. Before we get going, a little bit of housekeeping. I'm doing this just after the latest World Update, World Update 9 for Italy and Malta, and I completely forgot that you need to refresh your variables, the H variables, B variables and L variables after each update. So I merrily switched on and my Stream Deck didn't work. So just a reminder, H variables, B variables, run that before you run Microsoft Flight Simulator. So do your update and then quit out of Microsoft Flight Simulator, double click on here, let it get going, then run Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then run the L variables. So that's done when Microsoft Flight Simulator is live. And then again, I quit out of both and restart them both to make sure that they pick up properly. And I've never had it go wrong if I followed that. Okay, but just don't forget. So let's bring up Microsoft Flight Simulator and talk about what we're going to go through today. So it's these knobs down here that I want to work on, and these control the panel lighting, the backlighting on the panel. This one here controls the lighting that you see here for your backup instruments. If all else fails, you've got those to work with. This one here controls the pedestal down the bottom, so you can see your tank selector, your cutoff switch and that kind of stuff. And this one here controls the brightness of the primary flight display, main flight display. And as a bonus, while we're doing potentiometers, we've got two cabin lights up here that we can work with. So we'll work with those as well and get that sorted. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to do over the next couple of videos, work on these ones here. While we're working, I will have, as ever, my actual Stream Deck up in the top up here, and that's my live Stream Deck, so you can see which buttons I'm pressing on. But I'm aware you won't be able to see much of the detail that's on there. The lighting's not great, it's hard to get the camera to focus and even display the right colours. So what I will put on here and keep live is an overlay of my Stream Deck, so you can see probably better the detail that's going on here, but that's not live. You won't be able to see my finger pressing anything. And the other thing is you won't be able to see on there if I bring up a menu. So if I bring up a menu here, you can see the menu is live on this one here, but it doesn't happen on the overlay. You see mouse pointer moving around, but it's a bit of a mystery. So I'll try to remember to bring that up on here so you can see what I'm doing. But I must be careful not to sort of park it behind so you can't see what's going on. So I have only got about half the screen to work with, so it gets a bit cluttered as we get to more complex stuff. Okay, and let's bring up Axis and O's. So what I want to do is to investigate what happens when I turn that control. So again, in the scripting, and you've probably seen this on previous videos, we want to watch the simulator events and see what's going on with them. Let's clear that list. And we will want to watch some of the variables to see what the numbers are, what's going on inside. So let's have a look. Firstly, let's watch the event. I'm going to turn this one, and you can see that it counts how many times I've clicked, how many accesses have been. It's a light potentiometer, and it's number 3 that's being set. This potentiometer number 3, but it doesn't tell us what the values are, and that's when we need to use a variable like this. So we're going to filter for a variable that looks at potentiometers. So just pot will do, and it's an aircraft system variable, the light potentiometer. The index is asking which one you're looking at, and we know it's 3, and it's going to reply with a number, tell us what the actual value is. So if we double click on that, and that goes here. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight and copy that just so it holds it on the clipboard in case I need it again soon. I don't have to go and hunt it down. But let's change the index on it. And the index is 3. It's potentiometer 3. Add that variable, and you see it's reflecting back that we're at about 0.65. If we turn this up to full, that goes to 1. So 1 is full on. 0 obviously would be off. In fact, these controls only move about a third of a rotation, but it takes us from 0 to 1 and all the sort of decimals in between. So it looks like we need to change this number on potentiometer number 3 to make the brightness change. I have to say now, I can't control the turning of this knob yet. I'm working on it, I'm getting closer, but that one is defeating me. But we can certainly change the numbers. So on the Stream Deck, I'm going to create a folder here to hold all the controls for the lights. So it's a folder. I could name it lights, but I've got a graphic that I've done. It's a screenshot of that bottom left hand corner, so we'll drop that on there, and it's clearly the lights. That's okay. Right, let's go into that folder, and the layout I've got in mind is to get this 2x2 matrix down here, but I need 3 buttons for each of these controls, 1 to decrease it, 1 to increase it, and in the middle I'm going to put a gauge so I can see where it is and see what the value is. So that's what I need to do. So on here I'm going to put an event, and it's here, and I'll call it panel because it's going to affect the panel. So let's just type that in, panel, and I think I'll put it in the middle, so it's right, striped right across the middle as panel. That's quite a nice size, so I'll go with that. And what I'll do here is I'll put a text gauge so that we can actually pull back that value and have it appearing here. And again, I will call this panel, but I'll park that at the top out of the way, and that's where the value will be. I'm not going to use this one in the final version, so I'm not going to spend ages tidying this up, but it'll do the trick. So I want to put a version of that variable in here. So this is how I would do it. Search down the potentiometer, double click on here, sorry, do that again. I would select the variable, apply the filter, 1 click on there, and right click, so it's being held on the clipboard, and paste it in. So that's put a slightly different version of it in. The A is coming from here, not from here, so it's not put exactly that in there. He's put a version of it that works in here. So it's the light potentiometer, and of course I want to change the index on there to be 3. Okay, so let's submit that, and you can see it's saying 1, although the way that's saying 5.5, that's saying 1. And if you keep an eye actually on what's going on here, and you'll have to watch it in the side window, as I turn this knob, it goes from 0 to 1. That's the only values it will show. And you'll see when working here, it's when I get over 5, it rounds up and rounds down. So in fact, what's happening is with this number, is when I let's get StreamDev back up so you can see what's going on. Let's write the event here. So I want to write an event so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to bring up axes and O's and drop an event in there. Again, we're searching for the potentiometer event, and it's an electrical system. In fact, there's loads of potentiometer events here that we can use. It's unusual for this. Usually we get given one like this, and it's just a general purpose one, and we have to work and put some values in to tell it which circuit or switch we're working for. But this one here, some programmer at some point has given us a shortcut to each one, and that's okay to use. But I will show you how to use a general purpose one because it's useful for other functions that don't have this extra bonus. And also this only goes up as far as 10, and I know that I've found potentiometers up to 12 so far on just this aircraft alone. I bet there's more in others, so it's worth knowing how to use this, but we'll stick with this short version now. So we'll do what we did before, highlight it, right hand click to hold it, and then drop it into the panel here, and it's a K event, and I'm going to send the value 1. So what we're hoping is when I send that 1, this would go up to full value. That's what it seemed to be showing before. So we'll submit that and we'll press the panel, and you can see that it hasn't actually gone up to 1, it's gone 0.01, it's gone to 100th. Because what's actually happening is it's showing you percentages but expressed as a decimal number. So that's 1%. So this 1 that we've sent is actually 1%. If I send 50, it'll take that to 50. You can see the lights here have lit up to 50% now, and it's showing 0.5. So really I would rather not have it expressed as a number, but expressed as a percent, because that's really what we're sending as well. Let's turn the caps lock off. A percent, and you can see it's saying 50%. So it's the same number but it's being expressed in different ways. And if we go to here on the panel, again we can change that number and say it's actually percent that we want. So that ties up what we're seeing and what we're sending to make things actually happen. Okay, let's change the value here. Let's try a 70. And we'll submit that, and we'll press the button just to make it happen, and that's gone to 70. So we are totally in control of it. The problem is, of course, it's not the best way to sort of dim and brighten and change it. We need to... Sorry, I've just been given a cup of tea to drink. That's very nice. What we need to be able to do is to change that as using a script. So let's have a look at how the scripting language works. So bring axes and O's to the front, and we need to look at the scripting, the RPN script editor, to see how this works. Let's move things around a little bit to give ourselves a bit of space to work with. Okay, so I'm going to write a quick script to show you how to send the value and then how to control it. I'm going to create a folder over here to put my scripts in so they don't get mixed up with other ones I've got. So I'm going to add a folder called demo for this demonstration. So there's a folder, and that can go. So we've got a folder here. We're going to put all our scripts that we create over this video into here. So let's create a script called panel and put it in the right group, in the demo group. So all I'm going to do for the moment is send a value. So it's a sim event for the potentiometer, and we'll send a value to potentiometer number 3. Okay, so double click, puts it in, and at the moment it's going to send that value. It's going to send 1. What I really want to do is to send something like 50, so I can see it change. At the moment it's on 70, you can see it on 70. I'm going to change it to 50. So that's the script to send a value. So we'll save that as new, and you'll see it appear here in the panel. And to call that script from this button here, we insert it as if it was an event. So I'm going to get the event from here, and you'll see that I've got a demo, an event. So right hand click to copy it, and we will drop that to here. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll call demo panel. We have to send a number of some kind. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to send a 1, but it gets totally ignored because the value is actually in the script. So it's a key event being sent. So we'll drop that into submit, press the panel, and it's gone to 50. Despite the fact it looked like we were sending a 1, we sent a 50, and that's in the script. Just for completeness, we can actually put a script directly in here. We don't have to put have the script in a separate place. If I copy that and let's go to Stream Deck and replace it with the actual script, this will work provided we tell it it's a script. That's what the S is. S is script. And let's change that value so it jumps to something else. Let's change it to 60 so you can see it definitely happens. We'll submit that. So now when I press panel, you can see here the value's changed to 60. Advantages and disadvantages of either using the script here or the script buried in the script editor. If you use that script on a number of buttons on lots of different aircraft and things like that, and then you want to make a change, if you've put the script on each button, you've got to go through every single profile, find it, remember, and change the way the script works. If you keep it centrally, then you update it here, and it's updated for all the other buttons that reference it. So from a programmer's point of view, I like that, and that's how I would generally go. But if you intend to distribute your Stream Deck panels, the profiles that you've made, this is much easier to distribute because people you'd have to give them the scripts and the profile separately, and they would have to put the two together. So it really depends what your main aim is. But I'm going to stick mostly to writing my scripts in X's and O's and referencing them as it was a key event. So I'll be doing that system there, the demo panel. I'm going to try and type it in from memory, see if it works. You can always copy and paste it in, but I'm going to try and remember to do that. And I'm going to go back to my actual script. So it's 50. So when I press on panel, that should change to 50 now, if I've got it right. And I have. Okay, memory's working. Okay, so we can send values using the script. So a number of different ways of doing the same thing. I said that I would show you how to use the sort of general purpose one, which is useful to know how it works. So let's get rid of that for the moment. And we'll use this slightly different version of the event. It's still potentiometer, and it's this one here, the general purpose change of potentiometer. So let's put that in and let's have a look at the structure of this. So it's setting which potentiometer. This is the one that tells it that we're going to try and set potentiometer number 3. And clearly we need to send another value to it. We need to set the actual setting for the potentiometer, and we put that in as a first number. So let's change it to 30. So we've got two values being sent to it, and that looks like it should work. So let's update our script, and let's go back to here. When I click that, we would expect it to go to 30 using the values that are in the script. So let's press the panel, and you find it goes to 0. So what's happened in the script is it's ignored that number as if it can't see it, and it's set as 0 by default. What we actually need to do is to tell it that there are two arguments, two inputs, two values to work with. Okay, so once we tell it there's two, it will look for the two. It will look for that and for that. So let's update that, and again, look at what's happening in Axes and O's in Stream Deck. When I click the panel, it's picked up that I meant 30. So using that one structure there, I can access any potentiometer and send any value to it, so long as I remember to put that 2 there. So we've got lots of different ways of cutting this up. Let's bring back PowerPoint for a second, because I've tried to summarize that. Let's get these out of the way for the moment. And in PowerPoint, we've got this one here. If we're setting the event actually on a button to send direct to it, we know the value. That's the kind of the way the event works. And we put that in, that 50 into a separate field, and it would send 50 to it. So we can send potentiometer number 3. This is how you would set a direct command in the script editor. Brackets, there's the K there, it's potentiometer number 3, and we'd just be sending a 70. So that's how we could send it in the script. Or on the button as an S event, we could put that into as an S event and it works. So there are two versions of the same thing. This is how we would build up the general purpose one as a script. There's the 3, that's the value, the number of the potentiometer we want to address. This is the value that we want to send to it. So we've got a value and an index, but we won't work because we haven't told it there are two values to work with, and this is the one that actually works. So we'd send a 70 to number 3, and it would check that there are 2. So they're the various different versions that we've got of this. So that's the value, that's the index, and that's the number of inputs. And we must remember to set that each time. Okay, so what's next? Let's bring back where we're up to on here. And what we'd like to be able to do is on the Stream Deck, not send an actual value, but to tell it when we click on this, we want it to take that value and increment it, to move it up. So let's have a look at how we can do that. A couple of different ways. On the sim events, if you were watching carefully, you'll notice that there was a light potentiometer increment version. So let's copy that. So I've copied it using the right hand click, and we'll drop that in here and see what happens. So we're going to write an event, and we're going to increment. Oh, we'll send a 3. So hopefully that will. I'm going to click on the panel here. Well, it does. It's talking to potentiometer number 3, and it's going up in steps of 4, because 42, 46. 4 is built in as a default for that increment, and I know that because let's go two axes in those here, I'm going to create a new script called panel increment and save that as a new thing. So we will panel increment, clear that out completely, and insert that sim event here to show how it works as a script. So we'll do the increment here, and all we're going to do is change this to a 3. That's what we're sending it, and we'll update that. And I'm going to put that as a script onto that button, a call to the script. We're going to call that script here, so that will be demo. Doing it from memory, let's hope it works. If not, I'll have to go and do a cut and paste. We'll submit that, and yes, it's working. It's 50-54. What that means is if I set this back to 0, I've got to do quite a few key presses. Let's bring those back up. Sorry. I've got to do quite a few key presses here to get anywhere near 100%. It's very slow. So what I'd really ideally like is to be able to push that up in, say, steps of 10%. So 10 pushes takes us to 100. So we're going to have to find another way of doing our increments. So let's bring up our tools we've got. What we really want to do, in fact, let's have a look at a bit of PowerPoint for this. Incrementing. What we want to do is not to send an absolute value, but to get that value to change. This lot will remain the same all the time, the 3 and everything. That's saying where it's going to go. It's this that we want to concentrate on. So what we want to do for that is to take the previous value, whatever the value is of the potentiometer at the moment, add 10 to it, and that becomes a new value. That becomes that, and that's that at the end of it. That's where it's going. So that's what we want to script in for us, and this is what it looks like. It's get that light potentiometer value as a percent. Then we put the 10, and then we say add. This is the reverse Polish notation bit. These are the two values, that value, that value. What to do with them, I tell you at the end. It's not as we'd normally want to see, we'd expect to see it is one value plus 10. It's the two values together and put the 10 on the end. That becomes the new value, and it goes to potentiometer number 3. So that's what this would look like. That's the whole of the set that we'd need to put in. It looks a bit weird, and I know from teaching other people that this catches their eye and confuses them, because it looks like conventional maths now, 10 plus 3. And it's not 10 plus 3. It's the current value plus 10, or 10 plus. And then this is its own destination bit. Okay, so don't get confused by this 10 plus 3. That plus links to those two, and that's what we're going to work with. Okay, so let's try and get that in on the flight simulator and into our increment script. So let's just clear this all out for the moment. So the event, I could do it with this one here, but I'm going to do it with the general purpose one because it's good practice to do that. So we want to send to 3, and remember that there are 2 inputs to it. And the first input is getting that variable, that one, getting the value from number 3 as a percentage, getting 10 and adding them together, and then sending them off to number 3. So that should work. So we update that, and this is still my panel increment script. So if I go to this one here, that's still my panel increment script. That should work. And just give me some headroom, I'm going to take that back to 0 manually. And let's put the camera and Stream Deck up there. But we'll bring the Stream Deck up here so you can see what's going on. If I click on panel, that should go up in 10s. And you can see the panel lighting up and on the way. Now we've got to be very careful, because when I get to here, it will carry on going. Nothing's going to stop it. If I put in 110%, it will go there. To be honest with you, I don't know if going over 100% causes any damage. It may be building up damage and burning out potentiometer, but I don't think Microsoft Flight Simulator is that sophisticated at the moment to have those kind of failures. But we want to stop it happening. It's not good practice. When we do the decrease, we must not go below 0. Going below 0 causes all sorts of crashes, because it rolls over the 0 back to something like 40 million, and it does stop. I've crashed it a number of times, so don't let it go below 0. So what we have to deal with, let's get rid of the cameras. What we have to deal with when we do the incrementing, we do have to deal with some limits. So don't go above 100%. That's what we're trying to achieve. So to stop going above 100%, only add 10 if we're at 90, so we've got enough headroom to go from 90 to 100, or below that. If it's above that, it's not safe. Don't do it. Okay, so this is how it works. We're going to get from the light potentiometer, as ever, we'll find out its value. And then we'll compare it to 90. So we put the value 90 directly after and compare it to make sure that it is less than or equal to. So it's that reverse Polish notation again. 2 values and then a function. And then if that's right, if it's true, if it is below 90 or equal to 90, we do what we did before. We get the value, add 10 to it and send it off. And we always put the if bit in these curly brackets, or braces as they're really called. So curly brackets, and we put the function, the thing we want to happen. So this is what the whole thing looks like. It looks complicated and horrible, but it's not. Right? This is getting the value. This is checking if it's 90 or below, and then if we're happy with that, get on and do it. Get the value, add 10 to it and send it off. So let's try and put that into our script. So we'll bring up Microsoft Flight Simulator again, act as an O's. So we just need to adjust this and just put that limit on the front of it. Well, we know that this bit here we're going to send, and that's going to become after the if. So we can put our curly brackets, the braces, in one before. Oh, you see the red light come up? Because it knows that we need to close these braces for it to be happy. Okay, so that's closed that. Now, this is the comparison bit at the beginning. So we need to get that variable. Put that in the beginning, index it as 3 and tell it that it's a percentage that we want. And now we do the comparison bit just here. We want it to be checked against 90 to make sure that it is less than, equal to, and if that's true, do that. And it's gone green. Important thing to note is there's no space between if and the bracket. That's really important. Space is everywhere else as you need them, but not there. And that's saying that's okay. So the potentiometer will not go above 100. It will get to 90, it'll add it, but 91, it won't add it. That won't happen. Let's update that. And again, we'll test that and bring everything back up on the screen so we can see what's going on. So I'm going to manually, if I can find my pointer, there we are, manually take this back to 0. And I'm going to be pressing on the panel, and you should see going 10, 20, 30. And when I get to 90, it'll be happy. When it gets to 100, it won't go above this time. So we're dead happy with that. Okay, what do we do now? Well, we want it to go down, and that's pretty much the same. So what I'm actually going to do is to copy and paste that in. So this is going to be going to a script called decrease. So I'm going to go and create that script now. I can submit this. It's not going to hurt it if I call it, but while I'm here, let's change the view of this slightly because I've got two that look the same. So let's put a bit of artwork in from the library, and I've got to put a plus on there. So let's do a search for plus, and oh, on the wrong one. I'll search for a minus and put it onto there. Okay, it's got panel written across the middle there. That'll do. And let's go to this one here. I want to put the plus in there. Yeah, okay, so we've got a minus on there, plus on there. That makes it look a little different. That's increment. That's decrease, so we'll go with that. So just need to write the script now. So Axis Node script editor, and we're going to just edit this one really. So we'll do what we did before. We'll change the name of it and save that as a new script. And that should come up over here. There it is. There's a decrease, and the decrease, well, we decrease it quite simply by changing that to that. And let's have a look. That's the don't go above 100%, and don't go below 0%. So only subtract 10 if we're already at 10 or above that. So we do what we did before. We take that value, we check it against 10, and that is changed to be above or equal to. So that's the only change that's made. And then if it is, there's the change there, making it minus, and that's the whole thing. So that's what we're going to put in. So back to the flight simulator, Axis and O's. I've changed that to be minus there. So I need to change that to say compare it to 10 and swap that around. So check that it's greater than or equal to 10, and that's it. So we'll update that, and we'll watch the script in action then. So let's just get you out of the way. Let's bring up my Stream Deck to the front. So let's go down. 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, and it shouldn't go below 0, and it doesn't. So we've controlled it in both directions, and we've got the buttons at work. So it's now just getting this Steam gauge to work. Okay, so let's replace that completely. Yes, we'll replace that with a Steam Deck. I'm not going to bother titling it because we've got the titles on both sides, so we'll leave that as is. What I want to do is to put a graphic on it. Now, I've drawn a graphic, actually, rather than screenshot. I've drawn one, and it's just a circle with a thick border in dark grey with light grey in the middle and a little rectangle to show the index for where it is. Do not drop that on there, it won't work, you have no control over it. What we need to do is to drop it in here as the turning part. We don't need a background really, and so that would go behind it, and you need to work with transparencies to make it work, and you can put a layer over the top, but we don't need to with this one. We're just going to look straight away at the turning, and we're going to drop that in and update it, and there it is. That's what it looks like. What controls it? Well, I need to control its rotation with a variable, and the variable is going to clearly be, so we'll pick it up from here, insert the sim variable, that one there. So we'll right click and drop that in on the Stream Deck there, and it's going to be in percentage, and it's going to be index to number 3. So that's what's going to control how much this turns. I'm actually going to put some text on it using the same, exactly the same value. So we'll put that in here, and what I'm going to do for the moment though is submit that. One of the little bugs I've discovered is that these move a little bit. So light potentiometer number 3, and I want to put that in here as the text variable, and we'll update that as well. So it's at 30% and the thing has moved. Let's take it back to 0%. Let's go all the way back, and there's 0. I really want that to be over on the left hand side. If you remember, let's bring the lights up here. They start here pointing to the left, so I want my 0 point to be there, and that's where this offset comes, and I'll bring it back to 0% again so we can see where we are. The offset, how many degrees is that to be offset? Well, it's to be offset by 90 degrees. Apparently mathematicians always talk about rotation as anti-clockwise, counterclockwise. So 90 degrees counterclockwise, submit that, and that's where it should be for 0. But as I move up through them, you can see that we really haven't got a great representation of how far around it's moved, because we need to work with this multiplier. How far should I turn for each percentage point that comes up? And there's a little formula for that. So if we bring this up, let's get the full page on that. It works in radians. It doesn't work in degrees. We've got to tell it how many radians to move, and there are 2 pi radians. Pi times 2 for a circle. So a circle is 6.28 radians approximately. That's 3.14 multiplied by 2. And we're working in percentages. If we're working in degrees, we divide by 360, but we're working in percentages, so we divide by 100, and we get that as the value for each percentage point. But we're only using about 1/3 of the circle for that knob to go from 0 to 100%. So divide it by 3, and we get an approximate value of about 0.021 for each percentage point. I hope that maths makes sense to you. If not, just believe me, that's a good value to go with. So we'll bring all that back up again, and we'll put the cameras and sync things back in so we can see what's going on. And on the Stream Deck, it's this multiplier here, 0.021. We'll put that multiplier in, and we'll submit that, and let's move it up. So we'll go from 0 all that to 100%, and we do the same for the knob here. Take that to 100%, and we can kind of compare the two. And that's probably possibly gone a bit further, so perhaps we can be a little bit more generous. Make it 0.25 or make it 0.3, and you can experiment with that. So that's 0.25, and actually that doesn't look too bad, so I might stick with that. Okay, really nearly there, just hang on in there for one more minute. We've got the ability to turn it, to put some text on it, but there are two functions here that we might want to use: a button event and a long press event. And what that allows us to do is to have it so that when I press that with one click, it goes up to 100%, and if I do a long press on it, it takes it directly to 0. So that could be quite useful. Number of ways of doing it. We could write a script for it and call the script, or we could write a script and put it on there. We could write an event and send it 100, but interestingly you can't do that with the long press event. That field isn't there. It's intentional. I've had a quick email discussion with the author, and he didn't see the use of it. If you get this far with your development, you know how to write scripts, and so you just write a script and put it in, and that's okay. I'll go with that. So let's write a script, and I'll put a script in here and use an S event on it. So I will develop it in Axis and O script here, and then copy and paste it in. So what I'm going to do is to have a panel temp, which I'm not actually going to use very much, but I just want somewhere that I can develop and it doesn't mess things up. So we'll save that as new, and we've got a panel temp, because all I want to do is to send one value. If you remember all the way back, we'll get that out. The event and I'll use the long version just to remind us what it looks like. It's a 3, and I'm going to send 100% to it and remind it that it's got 2 variables to work with, and I'm going to copy and drop that in onto the button event and tell it it's a script. So it'll run that script. And for this one here, I will drop the same script in, but this time I'm going to send a 0. And don't forget to tell it it's a script. Submit. So now I've got, hopefully, a long press. Hold my finger down for a few seconds on there, and it's gone to 0. And one quick press, that's up to 100. So I've got quick access to that, but then I can dim it down or I can brighten it up. So let's just tidy up a bit and we can see this in operation. Okay, so let's take it straight to 0. Oh, I've turned off Axis and O's, so that's not going to work. Let's bring Axis and O's back on. Don't actually have to see it. Let's park it somewhere else. Right, so let's go dim, full brightness, one press up to full brightness, hold it down to come to nothing, and I can pump it up and drop it down. So everything is working fine. Okay, so really that's about it for this one. I hope that's made sense to you. And for the next one, I shall work on as many other buttons I can do in a reasonable length of time. See you for the next one.